Hello. So your game is made in Unity 2018.4.18. So the first scene is it's called the main menu scene. You'll find it in the build here. This is the GUI screen, and this is the level 1 screen, or the level 1 scene, I mean. Okay. This is the main menu, which is located in scenes in the folder, this folder. All of the things that you've given me are in this folder, Randy Dude Work. Everything that you gave me is in this folder. We load the main menu scene. Once we load it, we'll find it in the scene view. This is the UI, which is a prefab. Over here, you'll find the visual script attached to UI, as well as as well as a C# script. But let's go over the visual script for the UI. This is the state that is handling the main menu buttons. This is the state that is handling the level selection buttons. This is the state that is handling the options menu. We've got some triggers to start the state transitions here. If you go over here, you'll find that the entire logic for level unlocked is already set. So when we're going to add more levels, we'll be using this function to check which level has been unlocked and which level hasn't been unlocked. If you go over to the UI script, over here you'll find a function. Taking longer than usual. It usually doesn't take that long. This particular script is attached to the UI object. Over here we've got a function which gets called every time the slider value is changed. This is for the remove ads option, but we are not going to use this. And this is the starting volume handler right here. We've also got coins earned, we've also got levels unlocked here. This will not be used, but this will be used. This is just very standard what we do. Okay, this is a very small script, not a lot of functions, just 3. So, most of the UI is actually being handled by the visual script. We'll go over to level 1. Over here we've got some dummy players, but we will not be using the dummy player, we'll be using the Randy guy, which is this player. We've got a graph, or a visual script, that is handling all of the movement of the character. This handles the inputs. Remember, whenever you test this game out on a keyboard, remember to place this over here and place this over here. This is only when you're testing it on PC. When you have to release it for mobile, always remember to change these values back to their original values. This visual script is actually actually checking whether the character is dead or not. If it's not dead, then we are going to run these functions, which are basically to move using the rigid body. We've also got over here a simple statement over here, which will basically check which direction we are in, and then we'll change the sprite direction based on that. We've also got some animator statements here so that we can run animations. We've also got some manage velocity, a function over here, which is basically going to do the momentum functions, which I mentioned previously, so that the player, if he is he has to handle momentum, so the player has to make sure that he uses ramps to jump higher. If he or she does not use ramps, then this function will run and it will limit the jump or the amount of height the player will get when jumping. This is the jump function, and this checks whether the player is grounded or not. If the player is grounded, then we actually can jump, and this function runs. It simply adds a force to the rigid body upwards. We've also got a singleton here. We have also got functions for the pause button. Other than that, another important thing to look at is the enemy. This is the enemy AI. It has got the two states, and these are the functions that run once the character is actually moving. And we've also got a destroy function here. This is just a very standard AI for a platform game. We've got coins here, which basically have a C# script attached to it, and this function that is over here is not very interesting, but it does do a very basic job. It just checks whether it's colliding with the player, and if it is, then it runs this function, which is over here. This function is basically the movement function of the records, and if you saw in the game, the records actually start moving up towards the slider, and the slider that's on top of the screen. So this is the function that's handling the movement. So you can check it and see if you can understand it, but basically what it's doing is it's taking a position on the screen and then just moves the record to that position after disabling the collider that's that's on the record, so that the player doesn't collide again. Other than that, we have another function which is basically for the damage. It just calls a simple trigger, which is damage, which is also on the player, which you'll see here. Once the player hits the spike, this particular trigger is triggered, and it's called the damage function. Now let me just find it. It's in the health controller. This is the function that runs. So if you have to apply damage, this is the function that runs. So the spikes call this function. When you fall, it just runs the death function, which is here. When you fall into the gap, this function runs, and this function runs whenever you collect the leaf. When you collect the leaf, this function runs. So it just adds a value to health, which is a global variable. Okay. Now the only thing that remains in your game is this function here, which we'll check. This is the box collider, and we've also got a small flow machine here, which is basically going to move the starting function is here, and it's going to move the box. Once it collides with player, it's going to move the platform up here, then it's going to move the platform down here, and then it's going to move the coin. So what we have is, once it collides with the player, these are the functions that are going to move the box up, these are the functions that's going to move the box down, and these are the functions that will make the coin basically move up, so that's visible on screen. Those are the basic functions that are in your game right now. So other than that, all of this is just decoration. These are the main functions that are running in your game right now. So other than that, there's nothing really that I think you will require to understand what's going on in the game. So do keep in mind that once you actually, by the way, I wanted to tell you one thing, that if you take a look at the coin here, the reason why I didn't do it in the visual script was because for some reason it wasn't working, this coin movement script. So I had to use a C# script because for some reason it wasn't working. So this is the reason why this C# script attached here. Other than that, you can also take a look once more at the player. Remember that if you're testing this on Mac, remember to connect this to this and connect this to this. Otherwise your keyboard won't work. So that's it.